The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. You guys, give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Yes, good morning. It is Tuesday, January 20th, and today is National Cheese Lovers Day.
All right, love the cheese.
Yes, love some cheese, you know what I'm saying? It's also National Disc Jockey Day.
Okay.
I just want
I don't listen to the radio much, but, you know,
I feel
they
like
had their time.
I just feel like I just want to be like, You know what I mean? Fist bumps for everybody, right? I mean, come on, you know all about fist bumps.
Stranger Things fans, Rock and Robin.
Yeah, you know about fist bumps.
You know it.
I mean, you know, Liz, she lives out there in the fist bump capital over in New Jersey.
Indeed, I do.
It is.
Yes.
I did not know it was the fifth bump capital.
Well, you know, ever since Jersey Shore, I feel like it's that capital. You know what I mean? They were all about, you know, GTL, Gym Tan Laundry.
Yeah.
Fist bumping everywhere. Yeah. Pauly D.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially after Memorial Day.
Yep. Okay. Here, hold on a second. Interesting. Please copy that link and put that into this thread here. All right. Sorry, guys. We got, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, it's also National ButterCrunch Day today.
Again?
ButterCrunch Day.
ButterCrunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
ButterCrunch.
Whole day for it. That's awesome.
I like ButterCrunch. I can get down with ButterCrunch. I'm not mad at that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And just email the link if you can't figure out how to text it. All right, sorry about that, guys. We got some technical difficulties going on over here a little bit today, but it's all right. We're working through it. For some reason, the X isn't showing live, but it is live, but it's not showing live on my screen. So, weird. Technology is crazy, right? I guess. But nonetheless, I can tell you what else is a little crazy is going to be my next story after this one. But there's a legislator who proposes a bill to refine an Oklahoma DUI law for marijuana users, you guys. That's right. An Oklahoma legislator has proposed a bill that he says would fix an oversight in the state's new DUI law, which in its current form unintentionally impacts cannabis users. Oklahoma's most recently enacted measure expanding the category of offense known as aggravated DUI and took effect on November 1st. The law mandates that to qualify for an aggravated DUI, a person must have a blood or breath alcohol concentration of 0.15 and must have committed at least one of several violations while under the influence, such as driving in an active school zone or with a child in a vehicle. The law, however, struck the long-standing 2-hour window for blood testing involved in Schedule I substances, which unintentionally created an issue for legal marijuana users, as the substance has been shown to remain detectable in the bloodstream for up to 30 days, even without the user experiencing active impairment effects. House Bill 3018, authored by Representative Andy Fugate, Democrat from Del City, aims to alter the law to include a clause protecting those who were found to have marijuana and marijuana derivatives or synthetic cannabinoids in their system that would otherwise be shown in blood testing provisions. In a quote, he says, "The issue was brought to my attention by a constituent, and I'm grateful for their help in identifying the problem." Fugate said in a news release that HB 308 ensures that our DUI laws target impaired drivers and not patients who are following Oklahoma's medical marijuana laws. The measure would preserve all field sobriety testing tools to identify real-time impairment and focus the laws on fair and enforceable safety laws. And this alteration largely applies to the aggravated DUI statute, and drivers who are actively impaired by the effects of cannabis at the time of being pulled over can still be charged with a DUI. Wow, look at that. Man, they can still get a DUI. Aggravated DUI versus DUI. I think we need a lawyer to explain this. What do you have to say about this, Michael?
Well, we have this in Florida with impairment as well. So I'm not really surprised, but obviously with cannabis, it's totally missing the mark with DUIs. Any patient, in some states, they have the presence of any controlled substance in your body can cause impairment as well as a DUI. So that causes a lot of problems because all they have to do is test positive for it. And as we know in the DUI sense, they're not even testing positive for an active metabolite when they do a urine or blood. It's the metabolite that comes up after you use it. So any DUI regulations surrounded around cannabis, I think, are invalid and shouldn't be enforced. So I'm glad that someone is kind of looking at this issue and seeing the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I just, I find it very...
Very what, Jason? And it's very interesting, the text.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this X link. I'm trying to get this X link so we can share it with our people, and so I apologize.
I need the info.
Yeah, I need the info, and it's not showing on my screen that we're live, and so this is really weird. I've never seen this happen before, so I do apologize for the technical issues and distractions.
Have you gone out and gone back in?
It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But my pull-out game is strong. That's why I don't have any kids. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you, Liz.
That's what matters.
That's what matters, right? Not having to pay child support, get lawyers involved, and you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All of that
extra
extra
money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not getting garnished by the state for child support. You know what I'm saying? All of that goodness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole DUI thing, I don't understand really the aggravated DUI. Like they're saying that, hey, you know what? If we pull you over later and you're not intoxicated, but you were intoxicated previously, and you drove through a school zone, then we can charge you with this. To me, that doesn't make sense because they have to catch you doing the crime. They can't say that, oh, we think that you were high when you weren't. That doesn't make sense to me.
And the other thing too is why is the limit so high? Why is
What do you mean?
Isn't a DUI 0.08? Well, and this is 0.15.
I don't. Fair enough, Liz. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Yeah,
about
'cause
that,
that
but
makes
it
no
is
sense.
Oklahoma. It is Oklahoma. You know, there's a lot less traffic out there. You know, you're more likely to probably crash into a tree than you are to crash into a person because of the population size and stuff like that. So I imagine it has something to do with that. But
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
I still think that's
I don't know.
very generous.
You know, maybe.
In Florida, we have a 0.08 as the base mark, and then a 1.5 as enhanced.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So 1.5 is the enhanced marker. So then that way it's an extra charge if it's high, it's as high as 1.5. Is that's what they're saying?
Yeah, it's the same charge. It's just additional penalties usually,
Got
right?
it. Got it.
So under 1.5, you don't have to put an intoxilizer on your steering wheel for a year. You know,
Interesting.
stuff like that. Or your license suspension may be longer, or the potential jail time you get could be longer.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, those are the types of things that they do.
Interesting.
So it's a super DUI.
Yeah, super DUI.
Yep.
Yeah. Extra charge.
That makes sense.
Interesting. Well, shout out to this legislator out there in Oklahoma. We hope that this pans out and gets advanced. You know, it is introduced by a Democrat, so I'm not sure how much juice they actually got to get stuff done out there in Oklahoma, or should we call it Toklahoma? But nonetheless, I guess we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back. I still need to get that link, bro. I don't see it anywhere. You haven't emailed it yet. But so you guys, there's we like to talk about people flip-flopping a lot on this show. And I think Cory Booker is a perfect example of a flip-flopper. This story, I think, somewhat points this out. And he's from your home state, Liz. Because
yes, he is.
That's right. A Democratic senator is very concerned about how a DOJ will handle marijuana rescheduling. That's right. Bipartisan senators are weighing in on the Trump administration's marijuana rescheduling process, including how it could impact the fight to ease banking access for cannabis businesses. Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey, told Marijuana Moment on Wednesday that it's too early to tell what the implications of President Donald J. Trump's executive order directing the Department of Justice to expedite the process of moving cannabis from a Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act to a Schedule III will be, saying that while there are things that look promising about it, he says, very concerned about where the DOJ will land. The ability of the Trump administration to speak out of both sides of their mouth is staggering. He must be looking in the mirror, he said. So I'm just going to wait and see right now. And obviously there's things that look promising to end generations of injustice. And I really want to wait and see. The DOJ has so far not provided any updates or timelines on the rescheduling process since Trump issued his executive order last month, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who has historically opposed marijuana reform, was not present at the signing ceremony. Booker added in the interview with Marijuana Moment that the administrative rescheduling move could potentially open up the door to advancing additional cannabis reforms in Congress, such as the Secure and Fair Enforcement Regulation of Banking Act, better known as the Safer Banking Act, which would make it easier for marijuana businesses to access financial services. In a quote, as a legislator, for me, that might get us an opening to some of the things that are stalled in Congress, he said. But ultimately, that's where I feel more comfortable, so that no matter who the president is, we have a structure that works to end the injustices and to liberate, frankly, an industry that has been severely hamstrung. And that was actually a good quote from him. The senator, who at one point threatened to block the advancement of industry-focused banking legislation if it did not include more equity-focused provisions, said that he's since been able to get into safer some of the elements that are important to me to be able to support it. And there's that flip-flop right there, you guys. That is like a likely reference to the addition of language clarifying that the bill's safe harbor for banks that work with cannabis businesses is extended to community development financial institutions, better known as CDFIs, and minority depository institutions, better known as MDIs, that make commercial loans to minority-owned businesses. That said, a current version of Safer Banking Act has not yet been reintroduced in either House or the Senate more than a year after the 119th Congress began. On Thursday, Senator Bernie Moreno, Republican from Ohio, and my buddy, who is expected to be the lead sponsor for the legislation this session, told Marijuana Moment that marijuana banking is ranked very low as a priority because we just have a lot of irons in the fire right now. And issues that take precedence include funding the government, getting this healthcare thing done, Trump RX, crypto market structure, he said. I said the Trump RX. And asked whether the administrative move to reschedule cannabis takes some pressure off of lawmakers to act, he said, I think so, probably. A recent Congressional Research Service, better known as CRS, report discussed how DOJ could, in theory, reject the president's directive or delay the process by restarting the scientific review into cannabis, you guys. Well. This flip-flopper, oh, man. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to die on this hill, and safe banking will not get a pass when it could have got a pass because it doesn't have the right social equities points in there, and he chose to die on that hill, and now he is flip-flopping back into reality. I'm glad that he's coming into reality, but at the same time, we could have had this thing done. We wouldn't even be talking about it now if he didn't want to just die on his hill, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
He is who he is.
He is who he is. Cute, Liz. Cute.
And I think expectation should not lead to disappointment, because if you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed. Mm-hmm. He's not going to change. He is who he is. He doesn't have the he doesn't have the, what's the word I'm looking for? The fan base that he had.
Yeah.
When he was mayor of Newark, he was unstoppable. He ran into a house with a fire and rescued people.
Yes.
And he went from state to federal, and that's where they all. Mm-hmm. Those are all the hills to die on.
Yeah. I would say, I don't like the excuse, we have so much to work on, you can't get to this. This is an easy fix. That, the fact that I would think that there should only be a minority of people, the same people that are speaking out against Trump's rescheduling to Schedule 3 should be the people against this, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. So I continue to think it becomes politics. It's just a bunch of bullshit. And them continuing to make excuses as to why they don't accomplish something so easy. And, this is it. And they're worried about the budget. Well, create banking and you're going to create more tax dollars, potentially, I guess, with the loss of 280E, right? But in all likelihood, you're going to create more tax dollars, more money for the system. By getting this done and getting it done now.
Well, I think you're going to have more money actually in the system if they were able to pass safe banking than what they currently have. Not to mention, you're going to eliminate a lot of the financial incentive for criminals that are robbing distros and doing things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not going to have to worry about trying to grab cash. They're only going to just be going there basically just for product. So I think that would calm some things down again, and it would stop a lot of, I think, retail burglaries that have been happening as well. And so I think for those kinds of issues, I think it only makes sense. It's out of the necessity for public safety. I feel like more is kind of, more my talking point on that. But, the
public fact, safety, banking.
Yeah. But the fact that, Cory Booker is, oh, I could finally get on board with that because of this and this. And in all essence, that is only maybe like a fifth of what he was asking for before, because before he was saying that in order for him to support it, it needed to have the same things for minorities as basically as basic, what was the bill called? The descheduling bill that the Democrats, Jerry Nadler, in, where there was like criminal justice reforms put in place and this and that and whatnot. And the MORE Act is what I'm thinking of. So, to me, there's a lot of people that I think will say that it's not a flip flop. I think people can say that he evolved on the issue. I think I understand that. But my point of it is that because he wanted so many protections in there, and now he's just willing to settle for this. To me, it's kind of a flip-flop, but I am glad that he's caving, because the walls are caving in, and he has to remain relevant to his constituents like Liz out there in order to maintain his seat.
Well, and that I think is our agreement or discussion that we've had multiple times about the whole term limit issues. And you bring in new people, they may have new ideas, and that's the basis of it. But I think these legislators, really have to get back to what they're supposed to be doing, right? I don't give a shit what your opinion is. I don't care what your personal opinion is. What are the constituents in your district, in your area? What do the majority of them say? And those are the people that you should be representing. And that's not what happens anymore in our government. It's what a few people with big money put in their pockets. That's what they decide to champion. And that's really got to stop. It's got to go by the electorate. And Florida is a great example. We passed medical marijuana by 71%. And we still are regularly dealing with hurdles and different things that our legislature is trying to do to thwart patients' access, limit the amount that they have, get involved with the doctor-patient relationship by requiring a certain council of random people, doctors allegedly, to review records before a doctor can decide that, okay, the 2.5 ounces isn't enough every 35 days for this person, they need more. And that's an unreasonable amount at all anyway. I mean, you're like, oh, well, you can have a half of oxy a day.
Yeah.
No, it's not how it works. It should be up to the person in between the doctor and the patient as it was written. And so, these people have to start coming on board and looking at the nationwide polls and say, listen, the U.S. people want cannabis legalized. The people do not want to continue wasting money and tax dollars on incarcerating and law enforcement going after people for smoking a plant.
Exactly. That is very, very true. Very, 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 very true. Hopefully they'll get it together. You know what I'm saying, Michael? But I don't know if I'm too confident.
As long as those big multi-state operators checks coming in, I think we're on the way. Whether or not we'll like it or not, but it'll at least be moving forward.
Fair enough.
And yeah.
You have any other final thoughts on this, Liz? Seeing how this is your senator, even though you may not have voted for him.
There's actually so much going on in Jersey right now.
Oh, we're going to get into that in a minute.
Talk about later.
Yeah.
That I hope he stands true, and hopefully we will get this passed. And well, we'll talk about Jersey a little later. But now is his time to bring it up because Jersey's in the spotlight.
It is again. In the spotlight. Fair enough. Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Michael Minardi. Michael is an attorney out in the great red state of Florida who helps cannabis patients, advocates, hemp companies, and businesses, and criminals stay free from the law. Only the good criminals, though, the nonviolent type of things. But you can also find him at his own law office out in the great red state of Florida. If you are in need of legal help at Minardi Law, it is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Good morning to everyone on the West Coast, and happy high noon to everyone on the East Coast. And it's those criminals that we most represent that have victimless crime. Those that are not hurting anybody. That's what we like to do, and we stand up strongly for them. So Smart and Safe urges Florida Supreme Court to okay proposed pot amendment. This is a big issue here in Florida with everything going on, so I want to keep it timely and local as to what's going to happen in November of 2026. The political committee says the initiative meets legal requirements to go before voters, refuting opponents' arguments, including their contention that ballot text is misleading. Saying Attorney General James Otheimer and other opponents are seeking to deprive Florida voters of the chance to decide the issue for themselves. Supporters of a recreational marijuana constitutional amendment urged the Florida Supreme Court to clear the way for the proposal to go on the November ballot. In an 84 brief filed late Friday, the Smart and Safe Florida Political Committee argued that the proposed ballot initiative meets legal requirements to go before voters. The Supreme Court must decide issues such as whether the proposed ballot wording is clear and whether the measure improperly deals with multiple subjects. Here, the ballot title and summary clearly and unambiguously inform voters of its chief purpose, allowing adults 21 years or older to possess, purchase, and use marijuana, attorneys for Smart and Safe Florida wrote in the brief. Otheimer, the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Associated Industries of Florida, the Drug Free America Foundation, and the group Parental Rights Florida filed briefs this month contending that the Supreme Court should block the proposal. Smart and Safe sponsored a similar ballot proposal in 2024, but it fell short of the required 60% vote. In the brief Friday, Smart and Safe Florida attorneys argued that the opponents recycle some of the arguments that this court did not find persuasive at the time in 2024, and they had a handful of new arguments that misunderstand the governing legal standards and misinterpret the proposed amendment. The court should again allow Floridians to resolve the marijuana question at the ballot box. The opponents contend the proposal is misleading because of an issue about where smoking and vaping of marijuana would be barred. In public versus any public place. The proposed ballot summary, the wording voters would see they go to the poll, says smoking and vaping would be prohibited in public. But opponents contend that conflicts with the detailed text of the amendment, which says smoking and vaping in any public place would be prohibited. The text provides a definition of public place that includes numerous places such as parks, beaches, roads, sidewalks, schools, arenas, and government buildings. The opponents argue that the part of the text about banning smoking in public places is narrower than the summary's description of a ban on smoking in public, potentially leading voters to believe misled about the effects of the amendment. The summary would lead voters to believe that voting yes would ensure there is no marijuana or its smell in public. While the actual amendment delivers no such thing, Alzheimer's office argued, the in-public summary would likewise deceive Florida parents into thinking this initiative will prohibit marijuana smoking near their children in hotels, restaurants, sports venues, and other areas open to the general public. The initiative provides no such reason. Florida's pushback argument says it ignores the full scope of the proposed amendment. The proposed amendment preserves the authority of private property owners to ban all consumption of marijuana on their premises, Smart and Safe Florida attorneys wrote. So the actual question here is whether a reasonable voter would understand a prohibition of smoking and vaping in public to prohibit that activity on private property where the only allows it. The answer is clearly no. The brief added, it is unrealistic, to say the least, that Whole Foods, AMC theaters, or Gold Gyms would suddenly allow patrons to smoke marijuana under this proposed amendment. The proposed amendment's prohibition on smoking in public places targets exactly what many voters care about, areas in which all persons have a legal right to access without the approval of any party, like streets, sidewalks, parks, beaches, and public transit. The opponents also contend the Supreme Court blocked the proposal because marijuana remains illegal under federal law. Pointing to what is known as the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, opponents brief contend federal law would effectively trump a changed state constitution allowing recreational marijuana. Interesting that Trump voted for it, right? Mm-hmm. Federal law criminalizes the acquisition, cultivation, processing, transportation of sale of marijuana, to the Chamber of Commerce brief, which was joined by the Florida Legal Foundation and former state appellate judge Frank Shepard. The proposed initiative would allow it. But Smart and Safe said the Supreme Court allowed the 2024 proposed constitutional amendment go on the ballot after Sigurd arguments about a clash with federal drug laws. The brief filed filing also said the Supreme Court lacks the constitutional jurisdiction to render such an opinion, much less to deprive the people of the right to adopt the proposed amendment by removing it from the ballot. Despite the fact that states have been legalizing marijuana for 30 years, moreover, no court has held that a scheme like this one is facially preempted by the CSA, the Controlled Substance Act, the federal law at issue, the attorneys wrote. The Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments for February 5th. That was quick.
Mm-hmm.
The case is part of a broader battle about whether the proposed marijuana will go on the November ballot. DeSantis, Altamar, and groups such as the Florida Chamber of Commerce helped lead efforts to defeat the 2024 proposal and are again fighting this year's measure. I really don't know what business the Florida Chamber of Commerce has to be involved in this. Smart and Safe Florida must submit at least 880,000 signatures to the state by February 1st. While the committee has collected more than 1 million signatures, the State Division of Elections website Monday showed only 675,307 valid signatures had been tallied. Smart and Safe Florida filed this month a lawsuit in Leon County alleging state officials who are part of DeSantis' administration had improperly directed the invalidation of 72,000 signatures. Circuit Judge Jonathan Sorstrom on Thursday found that state officials improperly directed invalidating about 42,000 petitions by what are known as inactive voters, but he upheld a separate directive to invalidate 29,000 petitions collected for the marijuana initiative by out-of-state petitioning gatherers, which I'm honestly totally amazed that has been overturned. Smart and Safe Secretary of State Cord Bird's office both quickly appealed Stromstrom's ruling to the First District Court of Appeal, which I think is the correct thing to do, because I do believe it is a violation of someone's First Amendment right to require them to be an in-state petition gatherer. So, this is going to continue to heat up. There's multiple lawsuits going on surrounding this. There's obviously what we discussed yesterday related to DeSantis's team changing how immediately people had to get certifications or clarifications or whatever you want to call it back to the voter to make sure that they actually did sign the petition that has their name and signature and address and voter registration information on it and date of birth. So it's another ploy. This is hopefully a step in the right direction, and we'll see on February 5th. I'm looking forward to those oral arguments, but I really think that this amendment is sufficiently similar to the last one. I do believe that the Florida Supreme Court in the last one as well said we don't have to worry about federal law dealing with Florida law and Florida voters, so they threw out that argument, and I'm hoping that they will approve this amendment. Whether or not it's going to pass in November, I'm not so sure about that, but at least the voters will have a chance and an opportunity to, and it'll be a issue in the governor's race.
Question. What are the non-cannabis smoking laws in, smoking and vaping in public, and what are those laws in Florida?
So basically in Florida, if you sell, I want to say it's either 40% or food, you cannot have smoking inside. Otherwise, there's no restrictions that I know of smoking in public, in a park or anything of that nature. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to Miami, and I was shocked because Miami was the only city, big city in America that did not have a no smoking cigarettes inside of businesses and restaurants law.
I can't even imagine it anymore.
Oh man.
But when I was a kid, people were smoking in the grocery
everywhere.
stores,
Yeah.
shopping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On the plane.
Yeah, on the planes, all that. Yeah. Oh man, you always get a dirty ashtray. Get a fresh seat in a dirty ashtray.
Yeah.
Oh,
and this is their common rhetoric, and it's a big thing that they used in the last campaign, saying, I smell weed like everywhere. Half the Republicans in Florida who are against it are like, the whole state's going to smell like weed. I hate the smell. It's horrible. And so I think that that's what this comes with, and I don't know. People are going to do it whether or not it's legal or not. That's really irrelevant.
Yeah.
And, we had a client a few years ago. They were at a hotel. They did end up dropping the charges, but they were at a hotel and they were, had their dab rig out by the beach doing dabs. And so they gave them a ticket and et cetera and stuff like that. So we had to deal with that, and they ended up dropping it. They were medical patients, and that becomes a question: is the public versus private? But I mean, I don't think anybody understands. I don't know if they do or do not. You go into a big establishment, it's owned by a private person, whether or not that's public or private. It's open to the public, but it's still a privately owned establishment. So I think that there's a clear delineation between those two in Florida law already, and just common sense wise.
Fair enough. I mean, I just wish. I feel like they're spending a lot of taxpayer dollars on basically a whole bunch of nothing, and we should have seen efforts like this in other larger, more national forward-facing things. You know what I'm saying? Like the presidential election, maybe. Back when it was Gore and Bush, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden the hanging Chad was the deciding factor. To me, I was like, the Republicans could have came up with something way better than just a hanging Chad. And we know how popular hanging Chads are in the cannabis space, you know what I'm saying? So some of the stuff, some of the decision making just kinds of pains me sometimes. That Republicans choose to waste funding on. There's so many better things that funds could be wasted on if you wanted to actually waste funds. But these ideologues are not going to get it out of their head, or hopefully they will ultimately. But we just have to keep on pushing forward with this. And like I said, I hope it gets on the ballot. I hope the people get. I don't like to see this the styminess. Like if the people, they get the signatures to let it put it on the ballot, put it on the ballot. If you got to put it on the ballot 10, 20 times in order to get it passed, and that's what you got to do. But like let the process go, because it's supposed to be a government of the people, not the government controlling the people. And so that to me needs to stop. But on that, any other final thoughts, you guys? Did I miss anything on this, Michael?
No, right on, man.
Right.
Let the people vote.
All right, fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our next ads, and these ads are currently airing on Fox News.
Rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise.
Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highatnightnews.com.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
Yes, and we are back. We are back, you guys, and we're going to roll right into Miss Liz Quinn. Liz is a senior cannabis advocate who became passionate when she found herself in a very overwhelming cannabis industry with no help or education. Now, as a senior super stoner, she's lighting up her way by bringing education to seniors and bringing senior awareness to the cannabis industry. The senior industry is the fastest and largest growing demographic in the industry, and they say that they are the new target audience for CBD cream. That's right, it is none other than Miss Liz Quinn.
Good morning to everybody on the West Coast. Good afternoon to everybody on the East Coast. This one's a little personal to me. It's about New Jersey and our Senate President, Nick Scutari. Scutari introduces bills to arrest legacy consumers and create interstate commerce of cannabis. This is who he is. Alrighty. Scutari reintroduced a bill, S3171, to make it illegal again to buy underground legacy weed. This bill establishes a disorderly persons offense for knowingly purchasing marijuana from a business that is not licensed by the Commission. A disorderly persons offense is punishable by a term of imprisonment not to exceed 6 months and a fine not to exceed $1,000 or both, it said. The bill establishes the crime of selling or purchasing marijuana from an unlicensed business. Further, it creates criminal consequences for the leader of an illegal marijuana business network. Also, an unlicensed entity that sells marijuana is subject to penalties for manufacturing, distributing, and dispensing of illegal, controlled, dangerous substances, it says. The bill permits state police, in conjunction with the Office of the Attorney General, to close any business that violates this bill and requires the seizure of any marijuana maintained by the business, it added. Only Scutari and Anthony Bucco, Republican from Morris County, are sponsoring this bill. Bucco, though, is very pro-cannabis homegrow legislation, and Scutari is not. We've been having a battle here in New Jersey trying to get homegrow. We've been trying to get an informational hearing, not even a vote, an informational hearing for 4 years, and Scutari has just, pushed it under, and now the time has come. Okay. It has no other sponsors or a companion bill, which are signs it could move quickly, but Scutari might be the only sponsor needed to ram a bill through the process quickly before opposition can organize effectively. Welcome to New Jersey. Mm-hmm. It was reintroduced in the last session as well, but no other sponsors endorsed the New Jersey Senate version, and it only had 2 sponsors for the Assembly version. Scutari also introduced a new bill to foster the interstate commerce of cannabis. S 3151 permits the governor to enter into interstate agreements authorizing medical or personal use commercial cannabis activity, or both, between entities licensed in states in which cannabis is licensed. Any interstate agreement is required to prohibit the commercial transportation of cannabis by any other means other than what is established in the agreement, and also prohibit the transportation of cannabis through any state which does not authorize transportation of cannabis, it says. Also, any foreign licensee is required to obtain a license from this state and any proper authorization from a local jurisdiction prior to engaging in commercial cannabis activity. Once the agreement is established, a state licensee is permitted to engage in commercial cannabis activity with a holder of a commercial cannabis license issued under the laws of another state. For the agreement to become effective, the bill requires that federal law is amended to allow for interstate transfer of cannabis or cannabis products between authorized commercial cannabis businesses, or federal law is enacted that specifically prohibits the expenditure of federal funds to prevent the interstate transfer of cannabis or cannabis products between authorized commercial cannabis businesses. Or the United States Department of Justice issues an opinion lowering or tolerating the interstate transfer of cannabis products between legal cannabis businesses. Or the U.S. Attorney General issues a written opinion that implementation of agreements will not result in significant legal risk to the state, based on a review of federal judicial decisions and administrative action. It concludes saying the governor is required to submit the proposal to the Joint Budgets Oversight Committee, which will have 60 days to review the proposed agreement. The bill has no other sponsors or a companion version. And that's what's going on in Jersey. The legacy growers, I haven't seen many in gas stations or anywhere, but then again, I don't get out and pump my own gas. And I never will.
Right.
Not New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think now that homegrow is being talked about again, thank God. I think once homegrow, if we can get homegrow, I think you're going to see a lot of different kinds of legacy dealers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people that are selling them, the illegal, unregulated products, yes, they should be, they should be prosecuted or ticketed or fined or whatever. The consumer, I'm sorry, you're on your own. I think the fines and the imprisonment, I think that's a waste of government funds. Huge waste.
Here's the thing. If they implement interstate trade with it still being illegal or even as a Schedule 3, there's going to be major implications on that. And there's going to be a lot of people that are supposed to be legal that are going to become illegal under the law.
Yeah.
And this is a totally flawed plan. And I can't believe that these guys are doing it. Yeah, it's stupid.
So, I understand.
Or this, or that.
Hold on, Liz. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I understand the legal versus illegal, but it's still not illegal in Jersey to do that, right? You become then federally illegal to be able to do it. So it is that distinction doing as much as...
Yes, but hold on a second. Hold on a second, Michael, because when you are sworn as a law officer, you are sworn in to, one, the Constitution and the laws of that state, as well as the Constitution and the laws of the federal government. And so, therefore, by default, they actually do have to uphold federal law to some degree with that. Now, whether they make the arrest and they say, hey, we're going to turn you over to the federal government, whether the federal government wants to prosecute you or not is that. But the reality is you don't have the FBI or a federal police force out just driving around patrolling the streets of New Jersey, pulling people over for federal crimes.
No, we have ICE.
Well, ICE is great.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, but so, but that same situation exists today, right? Then by your theory.
That's my point.
So, what's the difference really? So, and I mean, I guess that I understand what you said. I have had a judge in Florida arguing hemp issues, the legality of hemp federally, specifically say to me numerous times, what does it say behind my desk? It's the seal of Florida. That's all I care about is Florida law. It doesn't matter what they do on the federal level. So, I just think that it's again, I mean, law enforcement's in the state, right? They are supposed to uphold that. But if your prosecutors aren't prosecuting and they can't prosecute because, they are upholding Florida law or state law, typically only, not federal law necessarily, then, it would be legal in the state, just like legal adult use or medical marijuana currently. But when you take it out of the state, then the feds can get involved and make arrests on it. But I think it doesn't change the current quagmire that we have between federal and state law.
However, if Interstate becomes available, I will need you, Jason, to pack me up a big package and send it.
Yeah, I feel you.
I love my California weed.
I feel you. I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
The day it becomes legal, we need to talk.
Yeah, one day is always one day sooner getting towards that goal. But I just feel that this is a big can of worms that they're gonna step into, and
it could put pressure on the feds too. I mean, especially, doesn't Oregon also have this already in place?
No.
Oregon doesn't. Is it Washington?
Washington introduced. But here's the thing, Michael, is that
they didn't pass it.
No, they've introduced it. But here's the thing, is that these guys are trying to create a broadening support for interstate compacts, right? Saying that if you abut a bait to a state, then you should be able to transport to that state if it's a legal state to a legal state. But the kicker on all that, and this is where this is a flawed logic by all of these people that promote this bullshit, is because interstate compacts have to be, that's right, you guessed it, Michael, passed by Congress. They can only be passed by Congress. They can't just be passed because a governor wants to do a deal with another governor, or an attorney general wants to do a deal with another attorney general. No, that's not how it works. These things have to get passed by Congress, and that's the only way you get an interstate compact done. So all of that pipe dreaming that people are saying, oh, it's possible, I guess it's not. It's impossible. Okay, it's more likely that Xi Jinping would end up on the $1 bill than an interstate trade compact would become a reality.
You know, I really wonder that, because what is the feds and the DEA's time and effort to say, okay, Jersey, you can't ship stuff to New York in a truck. We're going to stop it when it goes through. And what are the odds that the feds are going to waste that time to be able to do that stuff?
That's not the point. Like it's not the point of whether
and it may not be legal. But
I mean, let's keep it real.
From one state to the other.
Let's keep it real, Michael. There's tons of interstate commerce that happens every single day. Okay, all right. That like there's no just in general, period, across the entire state. You know what I mean? I mean 90% of all the of all the product that's sold in all the bodegas in New York is all from out of state, whether it's from California, Oklahoma, wherever. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's pretty much, maybe even 100% of it. Okay, but the reality of it is this: is law enforcement wants those laws to remain the same on the books as they are, so that way they have the ability to make those types of butts and utilize those types of tools. Whether or not they utilize them is a totally different story, which I understand your argument and your point on that. But the reality of it is that the reason that it's not going to pass is because law enforcement doesn't want it to pass. They want to keep those tools in place. And maybe once it goes to Schedule 3, then we can kind of revisit this type of a conversation and whatnot. But I think ultimately, in order to get for Schedule 3, you're going to have to get a DEA's license, which is going to seem interesting. And most of these people would never qualify for a DEA's license, so they're not going to qualify for Schedule 3. So it's going to be, we're going to, here we go. See, we want to go down the rabbit holes. You know what I mean, Michael? Like, these are the nuances of creating policy of the political ramifications of these different actions.
Mm-hmm. If we could just stick to home grow in our little state and mind our business, you know,
that would be great.
Because that's a big deal.
It is.
But it's a big deal that they have ignored for years. And as a medical patient, it means I can grow. It doesn't mean I have to.
No, that's great. I'm all for. We're all for home grow here on High at 9 News. We're all for it. But here's my question to you, Michael, in regards with this story. They're talking about recriminalizing product that they can't verify came through their supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the biggest deal in this whole situation. You know what I mean? Because, you have New York that basically decriminalized all cannabis and and, a lot of other states do. And, and this is basically reinvigorating the war on drugs 2.0 by saying, hey, if you're not buying from a store, then your product is illegal and you can still go to jail for it and And like, how are they really going to do all this? All of a sudden, you're going to have people that are just all of a sudden, they just keep their packaging around and keep on reusing their packaging over and over again and just filling it up with whatever. So then that way they don't have to worry about going to jail. It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the great state of Florida.
Oh, man. Well,
that's probably why that part just kind of passed right by me, because that's what we've been dealing with for the last
you're immune.
5 years.
You're legislatively immune from it.
I actually had one kid get his probation violated, right, because he tested positive. He is an active patient.
Mm-hmm.
A probation officer, and I didn't realize they could do this. I had to look up the statute. Went in and pulled his OMMU record and was like, oh, you haven't made a purchase in 3 months.
Yeah.
There's no way that this would, and he brought it in a container and he said, oh, I was moving. I found an old container with flour in it and I smoked it.
Yeah.
And she didn't believe him. So she violated his probation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I got you. And they do the same thing on the side of the road. If they have containers, the cops, they pull you over. They're like, oh, you haven't purchased in 3 months or 2 months or 4 months. There's no way that this is the same product that you purchased in the store, even if it's in the packaging.
Yeah.
What if they purchase it at a recreational store?
It doesn't exist in Florida. So,
really?
And not only that, I've had people arrested with their vape pen because the cartridge wasn't in the original packaging. It was on the battery in their car.
Yeah.
And they got arrested with it. So we did get that dropped. But, the point is the person had to get arrested and go to jail and get bonded out.
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay money and they wait to bond out. There's no free bond or no monetary bond. Everyone is paying money or going on pretrial release. So it's really disgusting, that they are policing people like that. And
it's all about the money.
It always is.
It's all about them.
Always about the money.
Hating this plant, regardless of how many people vote in support of it. The cops and law enforcement still hate the plant. They still see people use it as criminals and second-class human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's Joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back, and I have two final stories for you guys. Michael, we've been talking about these petitions, and there's a Maine man who claims a group is gathering signatures for a marijuana petition, and they misled him, Michael. A group is gathering signatures hoping to get voters to roll back adult-use marijuana in the great state of Maine. It comes almost a decade after Maine voters approved adult-use cannabis. Now, some people signing these new petitions claim they were misled. The petition would eliminate commercial marijuana cultivation, sales, purchases, and manufacturing starting in 2028. People would still be allowed to possess up to 2.5 ounces for personal use. Some are now criticizing the petition's organizers, saying they were not given the full story before signing. One man says he was approached at the Scarborough Walmart last week and asked for a signature. He says these people were present and told him they were flown in from out of state, but he wasn't told the full story about what the petition would do. He says the signature gatherers claimed the petition would test for pesticides inside marijuana and see if it was okay to use. In a quote, "I went home that night and I was thinking, that doesn't seem right. They didn't seem very straightforward or forthcoming with me, and they didn't want to show me the whole paper, the whole petition. They said they didn't have it on them," Devon Ray, who signed the petition, said. Roy reached out to the Secretary of State for answers, and he was told once you sign a petition, your signature can't be taken back. And now the Secretary of State is encouraging people to read these petitions carefully. In a quote, "The challenge is voters signing something that they didn't take the time to read and then having that regret because the law doesn't allow you to go back and get your signature redacted from the petition," Maine Secretary of State Sheena Bowell said. Roy says he has seen other people on social media who have been in the same situation as him, and he is now urging people to read the petition fully before you sign, something he didn't have the opportunity to do, he says. "I think that you should do your own research and kind of figure out what is actually going on rather than just listening to what those people have to say. But I honestly don't know if they know," Roy said. CBS 13 reached out to the person who started the petition, but they haven't heard back. And for this to make it onto the 2026 ballot, it would need about 68,000 signatures by early February, you guys. And I don't know how many signatures they have as of yet, but it sounds like a lot of them are fraudulent. And this sounds like a reverse Florida story from Michael today. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I'm very curious who's funding it, that they can fly people to different states and pay them to stand all day and collect signatures.
I think it's the
Nobody's
Somalians.
funding it.
I think it's the Somalians are funding it.
I think Big Pharma's funding it.
It's all funded by the Somalians, Liz.
You know, I unfortunately don't think there's a shortage of anti-cannabis people out there. Realistically, you know, especially when you get Project Sam and Drug Free America out there pushing all these zealots. You know, this is exactly a ballot initiative issue that it happens from state to state, one way or the other. But I don't know, maybe they should follow Florida and have to send them a confirmation that they signed it and they knew what they were signing.
I mean, I find it interesting that you can't reach out to the Secretary of State's office and have your signature removed, that they're having this like hardline stance. That seems a little unconstitutional. You know,
Yes, it does.
You know, that would tell me that if I was a Maine voter, like I wouldn't want to sign any petition, because you know what I mean? Just in general, I'd be like, hey, you know what? If I can't have it removed, why would I even want to sign it in the first place?
You know, and this is my thing about it. Who the fuck cares? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, realistically, and this is the thing what we say to voters, like, listen, you're not saying you support it or you don't support it. You're just allowing the people to vote on it. And that really becomes the fundamental question as to allowing people to vote. So I understand the issue with it. I think it's wrong that people are doing it. They should be honest about what they're getting people to sign petitions for. But in the long haul, I don't think that, well, I guess I don't know, but I would think that if the voter doesn't support it, well, he's going to be voting no on that, you know, when it comes to the ballot. And so will all those others would be pissed off about it. But it is bad actors, and it continues to make the petition industry in general look bad. And Liz, that's pretty much all these petitioners are. They're typically travel from state to state and follow the petitions with the pay the most. California is usually one of them they all flock to whenever there's an initiative because they pay high dollars for it. In Florida, we used to have a per petition signature. So every signature they got paid. They changed that, so now it's more of an hourly type of signature situation. You know, so which causes its own problems. But they keep on making it a mess, and it's a very difficult process, I think, to get done. And you know, these petitioners honestly are definitely people that you know are travelers. They wander around and go from state to state.
It's like it's more like a, you know, it's the peaceful protesters, that, you know, the paid protesters that they have in Minneapolis and everything. It's like these ones are just peaceful. They're just out there with clipboards getting signatures, but they're definitely paid protesters at this point, as far as I would concern against this. But nonetheless, well, you know, hopefully Maine, you get it together. I just can't believe that the Secretary of State won't take these people's names off the list. I find that very disturbing personally. Anyways,
seems like a signature shouldn't be able to be garnered by fraud.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But,
oh man,
that's why we call them maniacs.
Yeah, oh, I see what you did there. Michael. That was good. That was very good. And for our final story of the day today, we're going to go over to the green state of Oregon, who's going to hold its first ever hearing on adding female orgasmic disorder to their medical marijuana program, you guys. Look at that. Wow. Oregon will hold a 3-day hearing from February 3rd to February 5th to determine whether female orgasmic disorder should be recognized as a qualifying condition under the Oregon medical marijuana program, making the first major appeal of its kind anywhere in the country. The hearing will be conducted before the Office of Administrative Hearings and stems from an appeal filed on behalf of our petitioner, Petitioner Rebecca Anderson, whose request to add the condition was previously denied by the Oregon Health Authority. A legal memorandum submitted January 16th argues that the existing scientific record already meets Oregon's legal threshold, which requires only that marijuana may mitigate symptoms and that its benefits outweigh potential risks. The filing contends the state improperly applied a higher evidentiary standard than required under administrative rules, and supporters say the case represents a pivotal moment for both women's health policy and medical marijuana law. Suzanne Mulvihill, a clinical sexologist and executive director of the Female Orgasm Research Institute and Women's Cannabis Project, said the proceeding is the first to fully examine the issue through a formal legal process that allows expert testimony, scientific interpretation, and cross-examination of evidence. Illinois and Connecticut have already approved female orgasm disorder as qualifying conditions for medical cannabis, while New Mexico has advanced a similar petition through board-level approval and is awaiting final review. Other states have reached different conclusions, highlighting what advocates describe as inconsistent standards across the country. Backers of the Oregon appeal argue that the case could establish a clearer framework for how sexual health conditions are evaluated nationwide. The hearing will feature testimony from 12 nationally and internationally recognized experts in the fields, including cannabinoid medicine, gynecology, psychiatry, neuroscience, sexual medicine, trauma, and women's health. And collectively, the witnesses bring decades of clinical experience and hundreds of peer-reviewed publications, and testimony is expected to focus on biological plausibility, clinical outcomes, and patient-reported improvements tied to cannabis use. Female orgasmic disorder affects up to 41% of women and currently has no FDA-approved pharmacological treatments. And research has linked orgasmic difficulty to trauma, anxiety, depression, chronic stress, nervous system dysregulation. Multiple peer-reviewed studies cited by advocates report improvements in orgasmic function, reduced sexual distress, and enhanced bodily awareness among women using cannabis. At the core of the appeal are three arguments: that the evidentiary record already satisfies Oregon's mitigation standard, and that no evidence shows risks that outweigh benefits, and that the original denial relied on an improperly high scientific bar, including a demand for randomized controlled trials not required by state rules. If successful, the Oregon case could become a defining precedent, influencing how medical marijuana programs across the U.S. approach women's sexual health conditions moving forward. And even with adult use cannabis legal in Oregon, the state's medical program continues to serve a distinct and practical role for many patients, and medical marijuana cardholders benefit from significantly lower taxes compared to adult use consumers, which can translate into substantial cost savings for patients who rely on cannabis regularly to manage symptoms. The program also allows higher possession and purchase limits and expanded home cultivation allowances and access to higher potency products not always available in the adult use market. And in addition, the medical program provides legal protections for patients under the age of 21. Wow! They're about to pass this, I think, in Oregon. I think that they are going to get this through, maybe get this in the hole and out. You know what I'm saying? Intended. Yeah, just, you know what I'm saying? Yeah! Female orgasm disorder. Liz, what do you have to say about this, Liz? We'll let you go, ladies
Liz is
first.
going to be real old lady about this.
Yeah.
You men have your blue pills. Let us have our green flower.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Any thoughts on this, Michael?
Seriously, though, you know, it is a disorder. Men have their own disorders, and it needs to be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And especially today's women are under a lot more stress. They have a lot of responsibility and so on and so forth. So I believe this is something that has helped a lot of women, will continue to help a lot of women. And I think it's a no-brainer, honestly. Again, you guys have your blue pills. Ain't got shit. Let us have our green.
Yeah, I think this is great. Love to see it introduced here in Florida. You know, I think that this medicine should be available for any condition that a person wants to use it for. Honestly, I don't think that there should be limits on it. It's a natural and safe medication, and the limits that they've created in states, luckily in Florida, it's been interpreted very broadly, and that hasn't seemingly been challenged. But you know, I think it's necessary. Let people use the plant for medicine that they want. But,
Amen.
Fair enough. Well, on that, Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.